commenced. Let me know if you guys can see the stream. Boom. Okay, streaming. What's up? Let's see. It's showing.
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay.
Everything's good.
Awesome. You should do like a 5, 4, because it sounds like you're like with a loud mic or something. So it sounds like you're doing like a NASA call down.
Oh, my name? I am?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's got a lot of like feedback, not feedback, but just a lot of like I don't know.
I'll mute it. I just want to test my speakers.
Okay.
It should be good.
Awesome.
We're good. Get started.
Okay. Awesome. Hey everybody, what's up? This is gonna be our first live stream of many. The goal with this is to, in the middle of classes, as we're in between our busy lives, mine in particular, I have a very busy life. I want to make sure I'm connected to you guys. The reason why we created this school is to be close with you guys, work with you guys and girls, and focus on your growth and really having time together so that we can grow and continue this process. So one thing is that I've noticed is that just because a class is done doesn't mean that you guys can stop. Like it can be ever continuous, and you could actually take the class again and learn more. I do that all the time, actually. I'm constantly learning, and sometimes when I take something like a class that I've either enjoyed or it was very just tough for me, I end up taking it again because it usually helps me catch up on anything that I might have missed. So to start off my first Learn Squared stream with everybody is I've got some of my mentorship students in here, and we're going to do some fun stuff that we did kind of similarly in the mentorship. And one of the most important things I think about the Learn Squared experience is getting direct time, with one of your teachers. And so, again, I'm trying to show you guys just like the power of the platform and just having fun working with the students and all that awesome stuff. So welcome everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. And let's get started. So kind of how we do this is everybody submits their work. And right now, what I've done is I split my mentorship group into 2 films. One of them is 12 Monkeys, and the other one is Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko is one of my favorite films. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a bit about the movies and also if we were to make title sequences, I don't think either film really needs a title sequence. Maybe 12 Monkeys could use it in the edit, but I think both films are perfect as they are. But if we had the ability or the chance to do so, then we could, So yeah, here we are. Let's see. And I'm going to start breaking these things down. Who would like to start first? Is there anybody we have an hour and a half, so is there anybody that needs to go early that wants to start first? And we can do that. I see you, John. I see you in the video.
Yeah.
What's up, John? Welcome to the class. Good, man. You can
Finally.
Yeah, if you want, you can turn off the video because it'll save your bandwidth and then it'll allow you to be clearer. So yeah, because the internet hasn't caught up with us yet in our demand for high fidelity video. So Andrew could probably help you with that, or John. So if you want to go first, just let me know if you want to speak up, or else I'll just kind of pick randomly. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Phil, are you here? Mr. Phil. Hey, John, did Phil say he was going to be here? Not sure if he said he was going to make it.
Hey, sorry.
There you are.
Hey, sir.
Google Works.
There you are. You're Mr. Art with the art. Okay, gotcha. How you doing, Phil?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Really good. Just really busy, but life is good. Can't complain. All is good in life. So you picked Donnie Darko?
Yeah. I really like the film. When I first saw it, though, I was quite young, so I thought it was a horror film. And then it wasn't until I watched it a couple of weeks ago again, I realized it's not a horror film.
Yeah, it's not a horror film at all. What would you categorize it as?
Yeah, totally. There's so many different. It's really mundane in some ways, just kind of like teenage life, going to school, um, family arguments, that kind of stuff. And then you get that really weird kind of time travel twist that's throughout it, and his kind of like psychosis and how everything's working together. And you don't really. I think when I first saw it was the original cut, and Powell recommended watching the director's cut because it makes more sense, and it totally does. Like it really explains the time travel element of it. Because otherwise, I just don't think you would really kind of understand it all.
Yeah.
It also helps with the title sequence because you kind of it brings up those kind of themes like I think it's like the ability to control water and fire and that kind of stuff, which is really useful for developing the title sequence.
Yeah, there's this film. The reason why I picked this film out of all the others is that there's so much. There's so much stuff in this film. Really, there is so much to really take away from it. Every time I watch the film, those are my favorite films to watch, or my favorite films ever, or films that every time I watch it, I take something new from it. And what it's doing is, as I grow as a person, the film itself grows inside of my own memories, which is really interesting. And I think that for me, the best films do that. They kind of give you something unique every time you watch it. And whether that was intended or not, I have a book on the making of it. I think it's a making of. I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to it, but it's got some interesting things about the director and the writing process and stuff. And the music is so good too. It's like so well put together, and some of those shots are great. I love that long shot through the hallway. There's so much fun stuff. So what's cool is, like as I mentioned, since we only have an hour and a half, what I did is I broke the class, which was 10 of you guys, into groups of 2, and let you guys team up on which film you liked most. And then looks like Alejandro, Leo, and Paul are on this one, and then also Phil. So we have 4 on this team for Team Donnie Darko. So as we go through here too, and this is a really great way, obviously, as we talked about too, with presenting your work, is having something nice and clean and really simple, so everybody can see it and really understand the information which you're trying to get across. So Phil, throughout the whole mentorship, did a really great job of making great presentations, which I really enjoyed. So here we go. Going to go through this. So are these your kind of like your guys' early concepts, just like the sketches basically?
Yeah, this is stuff that I've just so we've been kind of posting up our own stuff in the Slack, and I guess trying to develop our own approaches for this one, but also kind of inputting on what we've been posting up. So this is kind of my initial approach. I had some other ideas, but this seemed to be the strongest one that was coming through. Like you said, it's like such a kind of broad film. It's quite difficult to kind of distill it into one sequence. So hopefully, maybe there's some elements in this which work for someone else's sequence. I'm not sure this will be like this would go through or not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the thing with when you're making this stuff is just to make it with your best intention, and then something comes out of it. The most important thing is being proactive, right? Because like the last thing you want to do is not be like just being worried about like, oh, this isn't right, and then not making something. So the best thing to do is just to go out and make it, and then you'll find out quickly whether it's going to work or not. So yeah, if you want to kind of like walk me through your thought process on this. Looks like we start off with this single spiral, and then it's like verbating into different like realities, I guess, splitting off.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get across the idea of time travel without being too kind of explicit and too graphic, because I had some approaches which I was looking at, which were a bit more kind of graphic design centered, and they didn't kind of feel like they fitted with the nuance of the film. And so I just kind of with this I was just trying to kind of evoke a sense of the film, and a lot of it came when listening to the what's it called? The song with the piano, Mad World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mad World cover.
Yeah, so the kind of basically the it's a good cover.
Yeah, it's great. This song. Let's
Yeah,
see if I can get it.
it's really good.
Can you hear
And
that?
it's kind of like gentle and flowing. And I kind of wanted to just slowly kind of use like this kaleidoscopic effect to kind of mess with like the metal and the fire and the water from the film, and we're kind of like traveling through it, and it's like different dimensions, and that's kind of just a theme throughout the sequence at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought the cover. That's another part of the. Again, as I mentioned, there's so much awesomeness in this film, and that was one of them. Like, one of those awesome features that makes the film special is the. Oh, what the heck happened? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I think my mouse died. My mouse likes to die like right in the middle of important things. It's awesome. All right, so I'll go back up here. Let's see. But yeah, this is really rad. So I go up here. You can also any other of your teammates too. Feel free to jump in because I know we got. I'm not sure if Alejandro made it, but I think obviously Leo's here, and Powell, if you're here too. I think this is in the beginning of this. I think this is Phil's stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then you guys are gonna break it up into different sections and stuff.
Yeah. So the idea is we're gonna choose one approach after this, right? Or
Yeah.
kind of combine some of the approaches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and see which one kind of stands out and stuff. So yeah, but these are really beautiful. I think the general concept and the idea is really nice, and then kind of I can see it working really well. Like as I'm looking at them, I'm listening to the score too, so I could see kind of how it would all blur together and blend, like almost like a kaleidoscope, I guess, which is really interesting. This is cool.
Yeah, it is. The movement is going to be just like that of a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, that could be really cool. And then kind of going through it, maybe feeling like we're going through it, and then changing form.
Yeah, so you're feeling like you're always kind of like traveling forward.
Yeah, this is cool. This is did you create this in After Effects?
Yeah, because there's a kaleidoscope plugin. It's super simple to get quite nice results with it. So you're just finding some different images online and plonking them in and seeing kind of what worked.
Awesome.
It's quite a simple approach, which is why I'm kind of doubting it slightly. But I know sometimes the simple things can work. But it'll be good to hear everyone's kind of input on it.
Yeah, I think with design, simple design is oftentimes the best. Things don't need to have like all these extra things in order to work, you know. So usually from my experience or just seeing other designers that I like, sometimes when I look at certain design, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'm kind of caught in, I'm not looking at the design, I'm more or less looking at the finishes rather than the core idea. And remember, as we talked about, like one of the core and most important things that I'm teaching in these classes is the power of the idea, the original idea, and keeping things as clear and defined as possible. And so I think it's effective, and I think it works. So, and I think just because the trick is kind of simple doesn't mean that it's bad. That's a weird thing that I think that happens now. I think people expect things that are great to be very complex when in fact they're not. So but this is really nice. So it's really cool looking. That's rad too. It's like ambers of like smoke and stuff.
Yeah, so this, I'm kind of imagining it to be like moving footage, because you'll kind of get three kind of senses of movement. So there'll be the kaleidoscope effect, so it's always kind of transforming, and the images are kind of like rotating around and getting cut off and stuff. And then the footage itself is moving, so like the embers would be moving. Later on, there's some other elements, like that would be kind of slowly moving out. And also that sense of kind of always kind of moving forward through time, or it could go the other way.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, the use of fire in this film is quite significant too, in the story arc as well. If you haven't watched this film, for those of you who are watching, you should definitely watch it. It's a really great film. It'll leave you wondering and asking a lot of questions, which is great. But yeah, fire is used quite significantly in this film too, which is kind of a cool way to introduce it as well. It would be interesting to see like the time portal. You know how they did the time portal, kind of similar to the Alien and the Abyss. Very similar technology, I think. But it'd be kind of interesting to have that in these frames too. Just something to think about. Representing it, because it looks like it was like a. Let me see if I can find a picture. Time portal. Donnie Darko. See images. See, minimize this. That's not it, but yeah, here it is. It's so cool. But yeah, like the way that the time portal works and stuff is really interesting. But like the visuals of it, though, the way it distorts and bends light, which is really cool. So just something to think about if you're going to be using elements of the story, like fire, stuff that could be cool. Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I think the kaleidoscope idea is really great. It'll be nice to see kind of how the type looks over it too, and how you're thinking about incorporating it and stuff. That could be really cool. But yeah, these are quite stunning. They're really nice. Is this a brain scan?
It looks like one, but it's actually ink.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, black ink in on a white background in water.
You know, that could be actually something that you could really play with is, you know, like Rorschach or ink blots, kind of how our mind interprets visuals and translates them, just like I did with thinking this was like a scan from a human mind. What you could do, and that's, I think there's a lot of that going on in this film too, is like the duality between what we think is happening, what could possibly really be happening, and how much is left to the intention of the viewer and our just curiosity to find out what it is to us. So you could maybe kind of play with that, you know, which could be a lot of fun, like making images that look like there's something and then they change into something else completely, like they blossom into different shapes. That could be really cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Rorschach thing was kind of part of the influence for this, and I think one of the fire ones I did where it's kind of like a split. So it's kind of, it looks kind of like a Rorschach test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Kind of like
the ink blot, not
tricking the viewer.
Yeah, I think tricking the viewer could be really fun because like you have like, I think they did something for like a CeeLo music video like a while ago, so that might be kind of difficult to own that territory still, but like having some sort of interesting way of showing the audience something, but then also kind of transforming it and making them move through it like time and space could be really cool. So yeah, so something with the
I have a question from the audience.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
He says, can you go into talking about building an image? I've started to use After Effects as image editor for my UI design work because it offers a lot more effects, but I just can't seem to make what is in my head.
Okay, that's like, I can't do that right now because that's a whole other time. Yeah, we'll save it for later. And also, like, I don't use After Effects for image creation, so I can't help you with that. And there might be some other options for you, but like the way that I do that class is I start off with the sketch. If you're wanting to get something from your head, you have to have a process. And the process which I taught was to draw out your ideas based on like your creative brief, and then go into say like Illustrator and create assets, and then bring that all into Photoshop. And there's a whole process that I follow along with that. And so just going straight to After Effects won't help you. For me, it won't help you because I don't know how to teach that. But the process I use is from my mind that comes from the brief, then drawing it out, then making it in Illustrator, and then making it in Photoshop. Hopefully that clears that up. So, but yeah, back to this. So I think this is like, I don't know, it's got some really interesting things here, like some really beautiful ways of having this. It would be interesting to see if like you incorporated the type too into this kaleidoscope, and maybe had the type kind of like once it would freeze and kind of like slowly lock on something, and then maybe the type would be like this, like Jake Gyllenhaal's name here, Jake Gyllenhaal, but maybe it'd be flipped or reversed, It could be interesting. So instead of having it just laid over the image, it could be cool if it was like also involved in the kaleidoscope part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be really cool. Yeah, these are rad. Super cool. Yeah, I like it. I think there's a lot of really fun things in here. This is a cool concept, and I think it would work really well, especially starting with something quite simple and then going into something more complex, obviously, like this, almost like a time travel kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think those would be my only thoughts really in regards to kind of the concept, is thinking about a way of incorporating, say, the elements, like you have here, like you have the fire, maybe add in like the elements of time travel, like how the time travel looks and works. It almost kind of looks like this, but maybe it's got something else to it. And then the Rorschach idea could be really cool. And then also incorporating the type and stuff, and how you would put the type in there, and how you would incorporate the type into the rest of the settings could be really cool too. So, yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
I think that sounds cool. Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of strong enough or nuanced enough. I think it'll be interesting to see the other guys kind of stuff, kind of talk it through and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is really strong. Personally, for me, I think it's strong enough to follow, and we'll definitely we should definitely get into it. But yeah, so what do we have here? Are these your sketches?
Yeah, so these are just some of the stuff I was thinking about before I followed this particular kind of path. So some of the stuff's like a bit more geometric. Playing with kind of dual realities, so like having the house kind of fine on one side and then on fire on the other side, and kind of looking at like paths and people and kind of like their kind of paths and kind of stretching them out through time, so you could kind of like pixel stretch the edges of them outwards. But this kind of spoke to me the most, so I just kind of focused on this one.
Yeah, no, I think the kaleidoscope could really yield really cool results, and I think, again, as I was saying, the beauty of this film is that you can watch it later and it'll take on such different meanings and tones. And I think the kaleidoscope Rorschach idea could be really strong, rather than doing like a very direct, literal interpretation of certain things. So I think it's the kaleidoscope idea is much more fitting into the concept, I guess. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so these are cool. These are some of your original ones.
Yeah, so there's kind of I was looking at kind of, I don't know what would happen if I took a picture of the street and then kind of bent it around one of those kind of like time bubble things, and then kind of playing with the idea of the disaster. So you got kind of like a really serene version of it, and then one where it's kind of like disaster struck, for the top three, and then the two on the right at the bottom was that kind of idea of kind of like using like Rorschach test inkiness and trying to look at kind of dual realities. But it's a really, really quick and dirty kind of little kind of sketch, really, and I don't think it works that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could actually go far with this idea if you used it. Like, I could see this frame working with maybe without the paper texture on it. Maybe if you want texture, you could probably just overlay, like, remember how we talked about the techniques? I can't remember who it was that we were talking about that, but overlaying like a very simple dust that just kind of adds a little bit of imperfections to the blacks. But what you could do is take like an object like a house and then start to spin it or like rotate it or put it through the kaleidoscope and let it kind of dither out and then kind of turn into something completely else, And then maybe the last frame you could reveal to the to Frank, basically the rabbit, and the rabbit can conceal all the scenes that you had made prior, like through the silhouette of
really
his face. So
yeah, I guess you could have other elements. So you could have like maybe the axe where it doesn't look like an axe, but as it's rotating around, you realize that it is. But then it the kaleidoscope keeps going and it becomes something else, like maybe the propeller from the jet engine. That could be.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
all those things. Maybe what you want to do is, I think you already kind of did it here, but what you could do is like grab. I think what you should focus on, for me, my perspective, is grab certain elements of iconic forms of the film and then see if there's a way to show them in an interesting abstract manner, not so literal, so that it kind of becomes this interesting weird, like, is that a house? I kind of think it is a house, but it doesn't necessarily look like it is, or maybe it is, or parts of it, and then throw it through this kaleidoscope, add that like weird painterly technique to it, the Rorschach kind of thing. So if you were to do this, let me open up an image. We'll just do like 1920 by 1080. Sure. So the way I would do this, and for those of you that are watching, like, this is how we work in the mentorship too. So like, if it doesn't make sense, like in the beginning, we don't just jump right into like making finished frames. We're going to get there in about the fourth episode of this. If my Photoshop acts up, forgive me, because I don't know what's going on. Photoshop is just like killing me right now. But what I would do is maybe say like the axe or something. Wow. Okay. The axe maybe is like you have, man, Photoshop, I don't know what's going on with it. Let me see if I can open up. No, it won't let me use that. Maybe CS6. I gotta figure out like uninstalling everything and then reinstalling it, because it's like just been the worst. I can't like do anything on it and it's driving me nuts.
That sucks, man.
Yeah. And then 1080, and then on top of that, it's like, hey, update this, and then Mac is like, hey, you want to update? I'm like, no, dude. It's so annoying. It's like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. Just let me work, guys. All right, so shape dynamics. So what you could do is just have like your axe, and I'm going to draw this really crudely, obviously. However the axe is in the film, the prop, you'd have to like make sure you get it pretty close. And then you have your axe, and what you could do is like add all that like Rorschach effects to it. So you can add like all the bleed and stuff, like distress it. So you take like the symbol and the system of it and kind of like distress it ever so slightly. Not too much though, so that the image still reads itself. So this brush, and then you could run that through that kaleidoscope test thing, and so then it kind of turns into this this thing, and it rotates, whatever, however it works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So like
it almost makes like a different shape. Like you just get the idea of it.
Yes, exactly.
Not sure if you've seen it.
Yep. Let's see.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Then you collapse it, and then you can invert it. And then I'd probably keep it on, well, unless you want to change it, but I would probably keep it on something like that. And then you can have like add other elements into it and kind of layer it in there. You know how we talked about like, well, and I'll help you through the process of this too, and we go into the next step for this. But remember how like we would add in little bits and pieces of little details and stuff. But then if you also had like a name, you'd have part of the letters here and part of the top here. Could be a really interesting way of adding in people's names, or part of the letters here. And then you could maybe cut to a new frame, which would be, man, Photoshop, I hate you so much. Adobe, please stop messing up with your programs, or my computer stop being so lame. All right, so you can also have like just really clean, simple type, and you have like the name here, and then you can have it cut into pieces and kind of fall away or something. That could be really cool. So but yeah, I mean, those are just some of the rough ideas. That's my approach to it. I think when I look at your concept, I think it's strong. I personally like it, so it's up to you whether you think it's strong enough and whether you want to do it or not. It's kind of, obviously your call, but yeah, I think that using this and then finding the core elements, so the time travel, the fire, maybe some iconic forms, and then revealing all the way back to the mask would be really cool. Like the mask, the black mask on black would be really cool. So just having all the shapes kind of compose themselves into that could be really interesting, So like there's all the numbers too, like when he's looking at the dates and times and stuff. So you can connect.
Yeah, there's the book and all the sketches in the book and the diagrams.
Yep.
As well.
So yeah, that'd be my notes for you. I would go back. The interesting thing about making a title sequence for something that's already made is that it's a completely different process than when I'm approached to do a title sequence for something. It's usually when I do a title sequence, as we talked about before, it's like I get a script or I get like a log line or some brief information, or I know a little bit about the film. Like for a film like Donnie Darko, if they were to do a title sequence and say, hey Ash, before the film was made, can you do this? I'd be really kind of intrigued and interested in it. And what I would do is I'd read the script if I got one, and I would find all the icons or the main moments, and then try to figure out a way of reinterpreting that without going too heavy-handed, so that I don't spoil it for the audience, and kind of and support those themes and those subject matters as strong yet as strong as I can, but yet pulling back as much as I can, so I'm not too heavy-handed. And then I would start to incorporate those main elements and stuff. So that's kind of the same approach that we're doing here. And I think that there's a lot of cool things. And it's cool that, like I said, like you're going out and doing it. So that's the most important thing. So, but that's how I would approach it. Because you have like really cool, like these are really strong visuals, like really beautiful looking. So, and you can also, if you can find ways of treating the icons and the shapes that you get kind of similar to this, so there's not just a hard edge, it's got these really nice fall off of different values that gives you this really interesting look and feel that could be really cool. So if there's a way that you can kind of process the icons and images this way, I think you'd have really great results. So cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm going to go through everybody else's. I think this is really strong though. So like I would say if you want, and you can talk with your group about like, the next steps and stuff. But I think that you could probably, if you want to, I would say if nobody else wants to join you, I'd say just go ahead and continue on this path, and I'll just help you out as we go through the process the best that I can. And so you can have, at the end of this, you can have some really awesome frames that will support and all that good stuff. So cool.
Awesome. That's cool, man. Cheers, dude.
Cheers. Awesome. Okay, so whose mood boards are these? Leo, are these yours?
That's mine.
What's up, Leo?
What's up, man?
What's up? You've obviously seen this film before, right?
Yeah, once. Actually, I kind of forgot about it. But yeah.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? No, it's not for everybody. It's definitely like an odd film. I love the hell out of it, but yeah. So what's your process? What are you thinking about doing?
I try to figure it out ways to make the title, and for me I found these two ways that looks interesting. I thought about the Rorschach, but all on a different way with this composing with real elements. Like on the other mood board with real elements, and then doing like real Rorschachs. That's maybe one option.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
Yeah, like the first one on the top.
Yeah.
And the other option for me was trying to do with really, really simple shapes, but really like, for me, they look like almost the old psychological book illustrations, They are really old from the 80s or something, that they have a lot of these patterns and lines, really simple, but they remember me, I don't know, in some way, the old psycho studying books, because when you think about the mind, for me, I think about these patterns, because I remember like from the 80s, they do this graphical head with lines coming out and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that would be really cool.
I try to mix that with the modern really graphical style.
That could be cool.
But I'm just trying to find pretty much interesting ideas before even start something that getting inspired before.
Yeah. Awesome.
Someone in the Twitch stream asked, have you guys seen the Orphan Black title sequence? He said, could be a good reference for the kaleidoscope graphics.
Orphan Black title sequence. Looking it up now. Thank you. Let's see. Art of the title. I've heard about the show. Let's watch this and see. Maybe it has some connections to it. Yeah, I've heard about the show. I haven't had a chance to, like, because people found out I really love Utopia, so they were like, "Hey, check out this show." It's pretty cool. That shader though. Yeah, I think that's a little too literal personally, but maybe it's just my own opinion. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. I like how the names are coming out too. I think we can come up with something pretty rad in comparison. I love the way you're going with this. Thank you for reminding us to check that out, whoever that is. Thank you so much. I think that there's really something rad that you're going and approaching with right here that can yield some really interesting results. I love this reference image. I think I have it in one of my folders too. It's really cool. I'm not sure how, it's a process. It's like some kind of weird, plug-in process, I think. Well, at least the one that I've seen that does something similar. It kind of like adds thinness and thickness based on volume. But that'd be really interesting that if you had frames that had this, could be really interesting. More of a very like black and white Bauhaus almost approach to the design, very simple and rudimentary. That could be really cool. And doing it kind of like this, like op art, could be really awesome. Kind of translating the idea of time, I guess, and turning time into like an object of geometry could be really cool. So, and I know you're really good at doing this, like this kind of design style. So I would love to see what you come up with from here, because this one like could be really cool, but it could be really taxing, you know, to pull off stuff like this.
A lot of detail, and yeah, of course.
I mean, you'd have to get like a perfectly lit ass right here, like that. You'd get it perfectly. Some Daz 3D for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think also the graphical, there is something there, because I like the Rorschach, but it's for me, it's like so much done, and then trying to find a new way to do it. I mean, you can do it always, but
yeah,
I think going into the graphical way is like the pattern that you see, the black hole is really simple, but you get the idea of the connection between universe. I think going on that graphical, really schematic style, and then mix it with the optical, and I think can be something really cool there.
Yeah, I think you're in the right. I think you're thinking in a really cool way. I think if you can connect the two well, or if you can just like translate a black hole in op art style, like see this one right here. This one's really cool. These are really cool, and then like this is really cool. If you had, I know there's got to be a way to do this, and once you figure out how to do this effect, then you're solid, because all you got to do is create scenes with geometry and then create a depth map volume probably, and then throw it through this process and let it work its way out. I know there's got to be a way to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, for sure you can use cinema and push some displacement on the plane or something like that. It's not,
yeah, there's got to be a way to technically pull it off.
Yeah, of course. But pretty much that was the idea, trying to do it in that round.
Yeah.
And maybe introducing some color in some part.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like
too.
Maybe the orange and the blue for some highlights.
Yeah. I think this could yield some really cool results. It's kind of interesting how you went about doing this too, because like in the class we go from the film and then analyzing our ideas and then starting to like kind of think about reference and stuff, but then we're going right into creating the frames. This is kind of interesting because I think this is more or less the way you approach things, right? You gather all kinds of inspiration and reference.
Yeah, exactly. I take the part. I mean, I kind of skip it for now, but I did on paper my road that you show us, like trying to extract ideas from the thing.
Yeah, cool.
But then I found out that this also works for me, like trying to collect things from all around, because
Good.
you never know. Sometimes even a strange image is still worth for some inspiration. So
Yeah.
I kind of mix the way that you show with my own way.
Good. And that's what I want to say is like, that's really good that you're finding your own process, because we all have different ways of processing information and how we work. The only reason why I wasn't teaching to do this like directly, just so I can be clear, is that because sometimes I think people aren't aware of identifying their own work from others, and they do something quite similar or too close to it, and then that doesn't do anything for the artist community or themselves included, because it's just like an iteration of something too direct. So it's like, it's more or less being cautious of that, the fact that this is a reference image to get your mind stimulated, that then will help you create your own original work. So, but I mean, I'm not saying that to you, I'm saying just in general. So, because I have that same problem, and it's like, it's hard, because especially nowadays when you have access to things like Pinterest and Google, you just have so much stuff at your fingertips that you can really make whatever. So, but yeah, I think this could be really cool. Do you want to do your own concept and let Phil do his own, or do you guys want to combine and do that together? Like, how do you guys want to work? Feel free to do what you guys are what's gonna yield the best results. So if you guys want to work individually, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think we didn't talk that much because everybody was kind of busy.
Yeah.
But I think I mean, we throw some things on the Slack, but we're gonna figure it out. I think maybe we work all together in one concept, or we help each other. You know, like if you are really good on 3D or typographic, like some of the guys,
Yeah.
maybe they can help to set up the font for my vision, and then I help you on the 3D on yours, and
Cool.
maybe that's a way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. I think the best way to do it. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think that's something that we have to discuss, but it's open still. Everyone was collaborating a lot on the Slack, throwing ideas and images and everything. So
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have that dialogue and feedback. The reason why I wanted you guys to do this, and I focused you on a couple movies, is because I didn't want you guys to wander too much, because it's so easy. There's so many films. Because like the first time I reached out to you guys, like, let's just pick your own film that you like, and then nobody did, because we're all indecisive. So like, yeah, it's best that we do it like this. And I think in regards to collaboration, like, feel free, both of you guys, if you guys want to individually work and just kind of do your own thing, that's totally fine. If you guys want to collaborate and share and help one another, that's even better. What I'm trying to do is recreate certain situations in which I've encountered in my professional career, when you're having to collaborate with others and utilize strengths and weaknesses. And usually as like creatives, we're quite insular, where we don't kind of work with others as much. At least some of us don't, myself included, because I work from home and I'm usually just kind of on my own path when I create my images and stuff and my concepts. But usually it's weird. If you have the right creative partner, you can make better work than you ever could by yourself. So I'm trying to see who's working with who well, and how it all kind of yields like what's the best result. Because in like 3 weeks from now, we're going to see, or 4 weeks from now, we're going to see your final results, and we're going to be able to evaluate like how well it worked and everything. So, but yeah, this is really cool, man. I would say if I were you, I would approach the op art angle. And then from here, I would try to, if you get some time, I'd rewatch the film, pull out the main kind of core things that resonate with you, and then try to figure out a way of throwing those ideas through this visual process and then bringing them to fruition at the end. And then try to do some type layout so you can see how the type is working, and all that kind of good fun stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I think I'm gonna go with this optical style, and then for the next one I'm gonna try to get some boards and some typographic treatments to see how it's working. But yeah, it's cool that you like this option,
Yeah.
because that was kind of my favorite.
Good. No, I love it. I think it's going to be great. and I'm just curious and excited to see what you guys make. This is going to be a lot of fun. And for everybody that's listening too, like the beginning step of this, even for all my classes, everything kind of starts a little bit slow, or at least for some people. Like most of the time, people are like, hey, let's like start making something instantly. And I'm all for that. But at the same time, it's like building a house. You don't want to build a house on a bad foundation. You can make really, it was interesting when I was talking over at Weta with Richard, he was saying, he had something really profound to say. He said, good design and bad design, they both cost the same. One's better than the other though, obviously. So it's better to really focus your time and energy early on making good design and having good intentions and good ideas. So in the beginning of this, we're all talking about, the concepts and ideas. We're not just jumping into making final frames and stuff. So it's just something to think about, because again, as I said, like you can spend a lot of time. I've done it. I've seen many people do it. You can spend a lot of time on trying to polish something that just isn't a good idea. And if you don't have a good idea, then there's no point in making the work to fundamentally help create it. So something to think about. So Phil and Leo, I think these are great. If you guys want, I would just stay on the Slack channel and like kind of have a conversation between the two of you and just kind of share what you guys want to do. Whoever else is in your group, if Alejandro's in there, like if you guys want to join in there and kind of share, Pal's in there as well. I know Pal mentioned he was kind of busy, but if you guys want to kind of help one another out to make something better, or if you guys want to work independently, it's totally fine. In the next class or the next one that we meet up with, it would be cool to see kind of breaking down a sequence of boards. At the end of this, I would love for you guys to have 12 finished boards. I know that's a little bit to ask, but either 8 to 12, but I think 12 would be good. And then just kind of breaking it down into those. So at the end of this 4-week process, it'd be really cool to see that. So whatever you guys need to do, if you guys are having like, oh, I really want to pull this off, but I can't achieve this result, then reach out to everybody. I'm sure somebody knows some way to do it. And what that does is it really simulates the experience of working with a group of people at a studio, because that's why studios thrive, is because they're a group of people working together for a common goal. Well, at least that's a good company. So, and there's companies that don't do that, obviously, but yeah, so that'd be my advice for you guys. So to keep your dialogue going, do as you guys will. If you guys want to work on insular or together, that's totally fine. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. We're gonna get the conversation on Slack, and we try to do some meetings, and then we see.
Okay.
If we work each one, I totally gonna ask Philip for help with his typography. He's really good at it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think both of you guys are really quite exceptional with typography. So I know that both of these are going to turn out really great, and I'm excited to help out with it. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, guys. All good, Phil? There's John coming in.
Yeah.
All good, Phil?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome, man. Cool. Very cool. And then just like, if you need help, just hit us up and then we'll figure out something. But I think you guys are both onto something really cool. It can yield some really cool results.
Someone asked, which Richard from Weta was it?
Richard Taylor, the guy that created Weta. The man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, he's awesome. He's such a sweet guy. Really, really nice. But yeah, he's an incredibly prolific guy. And so much stuff that he's doing and a part of. And the thing I really admire about him is he's just kind of created his own thing out with a group of people that he admires and works with, and out in Weta, or out in Wellington, out in New Zealand, of all places. So, which is really great. And it's become this like really awesome mecca. So, yeah. John, is there any other questions? I'm going to jump into working with Yaz on his stuff.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, no other questions. They were just asking if they could see or download the students' work after the stream, possibly. Is that cool with everybody? So they could check it out.
Yeah, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
We'll share whoever is able to share their work and stuff, and we'll post it on YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys in chat, if you guys could just let us know who's okay and who isn't. If you're not, just don't feel bad. It's totally fine. Cool. All right, yeah, as you you little monster. Where are you at?
What up?
What up? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for doing this bonus session. I love it.
You're welcome. Yeah, like I said, my goal with helping create this platform is to keep you guys creating and keep you guys growing. And I noticed that after we finished our class, everybody's like, okay, I'm going to go back to my life. And I'm like, hey, don't forget this. So I just want to keep it relevant in your heads as we go through it. So you're very welcome. And thank you for the thanks. So this is the other film that we're talking about. It's 12 Monkeys. Ironically, I was supposed to watch it again quite recently, and I just got swept away with other priorities and things that came up. So I haven't seen this film in quite some time, but I do remember it, the key iconic moments, and there's a lot of really fun things going on in this film that I really love. Before we get into too early, the cool thing about what you're doing here is this is following along with the process in which I teach in the class, and everybody has a different process. This is my process. There was a question earlier about like, hey, how do you create things from your head? The worst way for me personally to go and create something that's so complex and abstract, unless I have a complete vision in my head, the best way to do it is to have a process. My process completely eliminates any creative block and artist block. I go straight to creating, and it's like little footstones as I go through it. It's like one step in front of the other. So I don't go straight into creating. I don't go straight into a program. I ease my way in by creating a foundation, and then I build upon that. And so one of the parts is kind of breaking things down. And this is an example right here are you using Coggle? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Coggle.
So one of the things we use in the class is an application for mind mapping, which allows you to take your ideas and kind of get them out of your head and also distill complicated things like the themes and subject matter of a film, like you've done here in 12 Monkeys. So you're using Coggle. For those of you that use Mac, you can use Mind Map. And then for those of you that use PC, you can use Coggle. It's COGG. Coggle.it. Yeah. So that's it. Really good, as you can see, and I believe it's free, isn't it?
Yeah, it's free. You just sign in with your Google account,
which is really awesome. And the reason why I use this and I encourage people to use this is because you can like grab this thing right here and move it over to this one, and quickly, like, what you can do is shift things around rather than writing on a piece of paper or something like that. You're able to really kind of distill things down into little areas and stuff and add clusters. And when you're doing this, what you're going to see is that you're able to create like really interesting kind of summations of things and see like patterns in your thinking process, which is really cool. So all right, I'll stop talking. I'll let you go into it. So we want to explain some of the visual side and then some of the theme side, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. I mean, with 12 Monkeys, there wasn't like, we were sort of talking about it as a group. We were trying to find like iconic imagery, but there were a lot of like kind of like abstract concepts and ideas. So for me, it really helped just to get those themes and ideas out, and then some of the like higher level themes like misdirection and freedom and power and travel and movement and all those things, and then from that turn around and create like visual create like images and things from that, and that's sort of what the left side of the spanned out.
Yeah, these are great. I love your breakdown here. Because again, on the surface, like when you watch a film, when you look at these things, you're kind of seeing it on one level. But when you do this, you go down deeper and deeper, and you add your own meanings. But at the same time, you start to find things like an investigator would, a crime scene, right? So yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, and it helped a lot with some of those like animals in the movie. Just kind of what was the director trying to convey with these animals and different characters and different objects, and it definitely helped.
Yeah, this is cool. Sorry.
And from that, and from that I created a bunch of thumbnails. I didn't include that, but I just drew a bunch of thumbnails, and after a couple of iterations, we agreed on this set of thumbnails.
Okay.
So with this one, I talking with the group, Justin sort of mentioned kind of like a night. I think it was Night Watchman. I think it was um, the intro for that. Sort of like the blending in from one scene to another scene. Um, and I sort of riffed off that idea and kind of used the different frames to kind of like blend in a little bit easier into the next frame. So with that first frame, I sort of have like the virus in the movie, and then sort of that blends into kind of the next frame, which is like this crane type thing, or like how in the future Bruce Willis's character is sort of like picked out to go and do this mission for humanity and save everybody. So he was kind of like picked out, but it's kind of like the tendrils of the virus is kind of like coming down and picking him up. And then from that, sort of blending into kind of like a spider web. His mission of like trying to find something from the past to bring it to the future to sort of create a solution to this problem. And then continued on that idea of that spider and kind of like zoomed in onto his eyes. And that sort of reminded me of the that TV orb type thing, the surveillance tube thing, whatever it was, they had floating around. And so I just kind of like that imagery transition. And then I put sort of on one of the screens, Bruce Willis's character Cole's on one of the screens, and sort of used that to like do another transition. And then sort of zooming in on his head, there's a barcode. I use that to kind of just create the bars. There was a lot of like grates and bars in the movie. I saw that a lot of in the imagery, kind of like the showing power over Cole's, and in the next frame, it's sort of I wanted a abstract reference to the time machine. Or time travel. There was this like kind of like this blue tube thing that he was put into, just kind of referencing that, and then just fading into the final 12 monkeys. Yeah, and I try to incorporate infinity, sort of like I wanted a very minimalistic kind of idea of like time travel also in that, and also the 12 ticks of a clock type thing. And just working that into there also.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Let's see. No, there's a bit of delay. If you could. Okay, actually, it's better. Okay. So that's cool hearing your ideas. So the process in which we're working is you watch your film, or you get into your project, or you get a brief, or you read a script, or you whatever, and then you take something very simple. On this case, the movie's done, so we have tons of source material. We have visuals, we have sound, we have so much stuff to work with. This is a very different experience, as I said, compared to like working professionally and getting like briefs and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay because we don't have one right now, and I'd rather you guys work on a film and get comfortable with it. So the process is taking the main subject, the movie, and then breaking it down into sections, themes, visuals, kind of breaking your things down, processing it, throwing all this stuff through your mind. This doesn't take a whole lot of time, putting it all through your mind, doing this process, and then going from here, and then starting to do rough thumbnails. And the thumbnail process is a very fast way and a very cheap and efficient way to gain access to seeing if your ideas work visually instantly, and you'll know instantly by how it works. So one thing I was thinking would be kind of cool. Another thing when you do this kind of stuff, anything, whether you're doing UI design or any kind of design, you should always kind of predict how it's going to look and feel at the end, kind of see it. And so one of the things I was thinking might be kind of interesting is like the title sequence of this, if there was one, it would just be like, do you remember in Blade Runner when he's like examining the photograph? He's like punch in the quadrant, like and then boom, try that one, and then and it's kind of zooming in, and it's going through. I think Johnny Hardstaff did a really interesting commercial for a camera company. I can't remember, but it did this really interesting technique, and I think that what you could do with this one would be really interesting is if you, because from what I remember from this film is there's a lot of, like you said, he's not only caged physically, but he's also caged mentally. He's losing track of his sanity.
Right.
So one thing that could be really cool to do is kind of play with those themes and do a way where it's like when you think something, you go further into it and it actually becomes something completely different. Kind of like you did from the sequence 2, 3, and then 4, and then punching into 5, 6, and 7. So like this whole sequence as you're punching in, it could be really cool to do something like that where it's just you're punching through, you're kind of going in space. And let's say this is our eye, and we're looking out this way, and you're punching in through the image, going in Z space. So say like we represent this by Z, and this is our frame. And as we go through, we're basically going through the depths and the layers, which would be really cool. And so we're kind of going through different transitions by seeing things further into themselves. And that could be like a really cool idea where it's just like one main focus, and we could say like this would represent the infinity of time.
Okay.
What I'm doing now is like I'm taking all your ideas and I'm just throwing them through my own mind, because I have the privilege of just being able to sit as a bystander and tell you what I think. So, which is kind of fun because I don't have to do all the work and I can just kind of like mess around with you in your head. So some of the things I would try to play with if I were you is, because this film is so serious, there is a way to, I remember the symbol is like, it's like 12 monkeys, and then there's the monkeys written around, and there's monkeys around it, like 12 of them, the crazy ones. So maybe there's a way to represent everything in this film, or in this title sequence, kind of like the 12 monkeys. So let me come up with it. Monkeys. Images. Here, grab this. So if you're going to do that, maybe you can find a way to graphically represent him as a guy, like in the same way. It's kind of like stencil art. It's very much like stencil art. This is just something to think about as far as like the visual style. So if you want to go that route. What the hell is that? It's not 12 monkeys.
They made it show.
Oh, of course they did. All right. So see, yeah. So yeah, it could be really interesting to have something like that where visually that you're representing this, all like these things, because my only concern with this is it could be too literal. And you got to be cautious of that. It's a fine line between being too literal and not. I would rather almost it be kind of like, I think that's what made like work like Saul Bass's work kind of interesting, is because he would represent a human in like these, these kind of basic shapes. And what that does when you do that, when you're not doing it so literal, you kind of, everybody can connect with the image,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we all read that as being like, he could look like a mannequin or something, something interesting. So because I think I remember talking about, there's this book that I really love. It's called I think it's Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. And the way he explains it is that when a comic is drawn, they don't draw like some artists do, like exact literal representations of a face and blah, 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 and they have all the details in the hair and all that stuff. And only a certain amount of the population will really connect with that, maybe say like 10% or even smaller, because it's a guy, the ethnicity, all that kind of stuff. It's not iconic. It's not iconic. But then when you take two circles, a line and another circle, 100% of us realize, reflect, and notice that this is a face, like we all do. And we can all relate to it because at its core, it's all the same ingredients that we all have. So when you make iconic work, you need to distill it down to like the main core. So when you're thinking about it, this is just something for you to think about as you're going through the process to make it. If you're going to make a literal representation of him, I would say try to think about a way of iconically translating the forms that way. And then also look at what the art department and everybody has skillfully created right here, like the time and the monkeys going around it, there being 12 of them, and then one of them's crazy. Like utilizing that technique. And maybe Leo can help you with this, because I remember him doing some interesting stuff. I don't know, Leo, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you can help. Like maybe you guys can both like kind of do some stuff together on this. I know you're doing the other one, but I just like adding to your busy life. So I'm going to throw you right into the pot. So if that's okay with you, Yaz. So.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you. We were discussing about sort of different ways of making it more abstract. I guess this round we were just focusing more on getting like a solid story. Going first.
Yes, totally. And I digress a little bit, but at the same time, I'm always thinking about what the future holds, and so I'm just constantly going forward and trying to see like what we can create as we go. Because the next step is to start to distill these things down into items that you can then kind of create boards from. So it's just something to think about. So these are just my thoughts. So translating this into simple core icons and shapes is going to be interesting, and to see how you do this. But I would look up, in regards to visual style, I would look up the actual property itself, like how this all is made. And I believe this is a stencil, obviously, because they used it as a prop inside the film, where the walls were stenciled with it. And I don't know if you've ever done stencil art, but it's pretty cool. And you have to have areas that you would cut out that you would then spray paint or put up on a wall and then spray paint. And then, but it would be able to it has connections, like this is a connection for this. So this is sitting there, it's cut out. So you would spray, this wouldn't work because it needs like a connector. See how it's like hanging there? So like if you made let's see, stencil art, my spelling's on point. Stencil art. So like if you just look up stencil art. So if you were to represent Bruce in here, you can maybe find a way of representing him like this if you want to have his face, so that could be really cool. So
that would be a great. We discussed that too. I think it would be really cool. Robbie was mentioning that, to have because there, in the movie, there was a lot of these these kind of I don't know what you would call them, but they're these propaganda posters and everything all across the walls and stuff.
Yeah, that's what
that
this
might
is.
Yeah, an interesting spray paint, graffiti, poster kind of effect.
Yeah, it's like Shepard Fairey, Banksy, all that kind of stuff, And I mean, Banksy came out after this film. I mean, this film was really quite revolutionary as it was going on. I believe it did. I mean, maybe I'm not sure if I know my Banksy history, religion, but yeah. But if you look up some of his work or something, but the way of representing it could be really cool. So let me quickly go in there because I gotta make sure I get to John before we close this out. But I'll go back into Bridge, and also for those of you that are watching. So for this class, I mainly use Photoshop and Bridge and Illustrator and some Cinema 4D when we get into 3D stuff. But for the most part, my bread and butter is going to be, I use Bridge for viewing files and then Photoshop for augmenting them. And then I'll either use Photoshop or blend between Illustrator as well. It just depends on what I want to flow and how I want to work it out. So looking at these, the general, let's see, And what's cool is like this is the next step that you would kind of really start to play with, trying to break down, distill them down. So if I were you, I would just try to find a way of distilling them down to iconic symbols. If you could, I really love the idea that how this works, the infinity going in with the O, and then also like a smaller infinity that looks like a monkey as well. I think that this is really strong, really smart way of doing it. So it's just a matter of like taking this same kind of language and incorporating it throughout these. And I think it would be really cool for you if you could collaborate. I think Robbie mentioned he was going to work with you. Maybe if you guys can get some help from Leo, that'd be really cool too, because I think Leo could help you guys out as well to achieve something really interesting too. So
yes, I'm working with Robbie, Justin, and John. We've all been collaborating.
Awesome. Cool. Well then, yeah, then if you guys have everybody that's able to help, that'd be great. What's up, John?
Sorry.
That's right.
Someone asked, is this level of finish on those thumbnails something you'd show a client, or is that personal step?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. A lot of people ask that too. I usually, unless I'm working with a director that I can trust, or not that I can trust, that trusts me, I don't show any of this kind of stuff because this is really quite early process. I might show it if I'm, say, like close with them. So let's say like, I can't use names, but like a director I'm working with now, like I could sit with him and quickly draw out stuff like this, and he would instantly get it because I know ahead of time, like he's a creative thinker himself, and he can see through the crude drawings to understand that there's an idea behind it. So it just depends. Like there's some clients you would never want to do this for because they would look at it and think you're like an amateur, and they wouldn't want to pay you, obviously. But so you don't want it to backfire. So in general, I keep this all for myself. It's a part of the process in which I just kind of keep to myself. But in regards to like certain directors, yeah, absolutely. Like a polished thumbnail is sometimes stronger than a final comp because it allows us to have some dialogue before I go into making it, so they can go and scribble on it too and go, oh, what about this? And oh, that's a great idea. And then I can go and start to polish it. Because again, you want to have as much power as you can in the design process. And this is a way of kind of like a stepping stone, as I was explaining. You start off with the idea, then you go to the next thing, you have your thumbnails, you go here, you distill your thumbnails down, then you go here, and then you start to polish out your stuff. Then right here, you're done, and then you send it off to the client. So you have like, a process basically. Everything's a process, at least for me, that's what I found. Like you don't just fall into making great work. It doesn't just appear. You don't just wake up one day and then boom, great work comes out of your hand and your mind. It just doesn't work like that. From my experience and everybody that I've studied, it takes years, 5 to 10 years of continual practice to find a process in which works for you. This is my own process. It works for a lot of my students. Actually, it's been really great to see my students incorporate this process. But if it doesn't work for you, then by all means, don't use it. Find your own. As long as you're creating and you're creating great work, or you're successful and you're trying, that's all I could ask for. So, yeah, hopefully I answered that.
I got another question, but
Sure.
if you want to go into John.
Yeah, go ahead and let's
first.
do the question, then I'll jump on to. I'll just really quickly. I'll say, Yaz, thank you so much. Have fun with the next process. Just take my notes if you can, and try to break down in your creative partners to help Yaz as he goes, or to get to try and figure out like the next step in the process, and try to break things down into icons and see if you can try to incorporate the visual tone and style that is here. I'd really like to see you guys take this kind of stencil art graphic style and incorporate it into the frames, because I think that would be graphically really strong and it would be really cool. It could really work well with the actual film itself. And it's tonally completely different from John Fisher's stuff too. So it'd be kind of cool. You guys will have a completely different variety as of approach. Cool.
Will do. Thanks, Sash.
You're welcome, man. Hopefully that helps, and I'm excited to see what you make. All right, John, what's the question?
Yeah, going into the question, it says, do you think it's easier to pitch something that is sketched well or something halfway to a final product? He said, I feel like you always need to justify a halfway render, then explain and let the client
Shoot. We lost you towards the end there. Can you say it again? Sorry. Or you can just put it, if you want to cut and paste it, you can put it in our chat and I'll read it.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude. For those of you that don't know, John's out in Croatia right now. He's at this awesome art conference thing out there. So, yeah, and he's not at home right now, so the connection's a little bit different. So the question is, I feel like you always need to justify a halfway render, then explain and let the client imagine it. Yeah, I think in regards to client relations, like for me in my past, usually what I like to do, this is exactly the process I like to do. If I've never worked with a client before, you want to achieve trust instantly. So you don't want to send them like a thumbnail and have them like doubt your every move, because if they don't understand the process of a thumbnail, it'll really cause a lot of issues for you in the creative process, because what you want to achieve instantly is trust from your client, whether it's a director or whoever. And a lot of times for me, I like to just capture that instantly as fast as I can, because if I don't, it's gonna be a hard battle to earn that trust back. And so what I would suggest is allow ample enough time before you come back to them with anything. If you feel like they don't have trust, so if like for me, for example, if it's a new relationship with a client, I will go and make something really great, and then come back to them, give myself enough time, and then come back to them with something that's really good or somewhat polished or has the general idea and the feel, to kind of sell the idea, because the closer you can get to that, the better. But if you don't do that, then if you show like a thumbnail or something too quickly, prematurely, they're not going to take you seriously, and that's just not going to get you anywhere really. So hopefully that makes sense. That's my process. So it's like you only get one first impact, and you really want to make sure you use it right, because if you don't, you're going to just be kind of killing yourself walking backwards. So, all right. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Mr. John Fisher, are you here?
Yeah, what's up, brother?
What's up, dude? How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Again, I just want to help you guys continue. So whatever I can do in my power, and us as the platform, it's like, I'm excited for this. It also keeps me kind of present in this space too, because if I don't do it, I'm completely in a completely different space, always doing something else. So yeah, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. And you obviously picked the Monkeys of 12, right? So
yeah,
you want to walk me through kind of your process and like how you got about to being here?
Yeah, we met last week and kind of talked over some stuff and presented some ideas and our mood boards. And my first idea was more, it's kind of funny seeing the Donnie Darko stuff, because I kind of was going with the Rorschach ink blots and revealing things, and I was kind of so on it. And we were talking, and Justin just kind of said, there's not really any iconic visuals in the film that just really jump out. I mean, there's a lot of strong ideas and stuff. So that kind of made me think a little more abstract. So I started just Googling, old insane asylums, and started seeing some really weird, just kind of creepy, shots. And I guess that made me think of Chris Cunningham a little bit. So I started looking at his work a little bit. And then I just kind of ended up in this direction. And I kind of thought the glitch worked as kind of a metaphor for the time travel, the going back and forth, and just the way they didn't always end up where they wanted to. The insane asylum, whether is this character really crazy or not. The scientists kind of operating on things in the background, and kind of the puppet masters of all of this, and then the animals, that are they a big deal or are they not? And then with the monkey just kind of showing up, I kind of see the glitchy part happening, and then just this little blip of the monkey, until you start to resolve at the end, and then you see the 12 Monkeys logo, which that's more of a placeholder, that last shot. But so yeah, that was when you first gave us this project, I kind of thought we were supposed to keep moving on it. So our first meeting, that we would keep going week by week and doing stuff. So I kind of progressed a little bit further, than maybe you were expecting. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that's where I ended up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's work backwards so I can get. Oh, sorry, I'm getting an echo. You have to mute your mic unless you're talking. Sorry. I think it's probably the volume on where you're at. Okay, so if I work backwards from where you're at now, because yeah, as you mentioned, as I was saying earlier, so you start off with like the brief comes in from your client, and then you start to kind of like a detective, you start to pull it apart and do some detective work and kind of find out what the core themes and try to find things that your mind clings to, things that you really, can attach yourself to. And then from there, you start to kind of distill them down. So this would be like, I consider this the mind map. This is my own process. Again, I'm just kind of explaining it to everybody here. I know you guys in the mentorship know this, but I'm just making sure everybody knows this. This is my process because I'm going to explain my notes and reasonings of some certain things. So as we move forward, so you have your theme, and then you have your mind map, which you break down all your ideas. And then from here, the reason why I think it's really important to stop and do this is because it's like, if I use a metaphor like a car, right? So if you're here in this location, but you need to make it all the way over here, your let's say your gas tank only lasts you to like this far. You have to do intervals of filling up and getting gas this far away. What you need, this is like a gas station, and you can't just try to get there. You're going to run out of gas, and you're going to just kind of like void off. What you need to do is you need to stop and go get gas and service your car or whatever. And by getting gas, it allows you to continue on. So if I use that metaphor, so this is one of the gas stations basically to kind of help you get more information, more source material, to find things, to discover things. When you had mentioned that you didn't find a lot of iconic things in the film, what that told me is that possibly you needed to go deeper into your mind map, because this film, as you saw, I think with Yaz, he had like a lot of really interesting icons, how he broke down the animals, and just the animals alone on his mind map, like there's so much stuff in there. I think where is it at? So it's something to think about when you're breaking down your ideas. It'll help you. And so the next thing is the thumbnails. And the reason why we do the thumbnails, remember, because it's really cheap and easy. And I'm not sure, it seems like you probably went ahead and maybe you did all this stuff. So I just don't see it. So it's okay. Even if you did, we can go back and kind of play with them and perfect them. And I apologize for any confusion ahead of time. And then from the thumbnails, then we start to kind of distill the thumbnails into rough frames. And then from here we polish them. So we have like a finished set of frames, 6 to 12 frames, supporting all this stuff, which then supports the brief. So everything comes back circle. And then we'd send it off to the client. And then we get the feedback. Then we'd make any changes here. And then we would submit it again. And then hope we win to get the big money. Okay, yeah, so I'm just joking around. But yeah, think about it as a metaphor of a car, okay? Like you couldn't just drive from here to New York. So California to New York. Like you couldn't do that in one drive. You have to stop and get gas. And each time you get gas, you're filling up the tank and you're getting more power basically, or you're getting more resources to kind of help you, continue on. So when I look at this right here, so what I see when I'm looking at this is I see some of your ideas. So some of your ideas, they're very on the surface. They're very much the surface level. And you want to go deeper, okay? Because like I think that for a film like this, as rich as it is, like this isn't some kind of like surface level CSI like show. This film has a lot of depth and a lot of meaning. It has a lot of social connotations. It has a lot of reflection onto what it is to be a human, what sanity is, where we're going as a future species. Like there's so much. Like this film, if I were to relate it to say like a fruit or something, it's like a basket of fruit. There's so much to it. There's so much depth, and I would say I wish we could do movie time, just sit together and watch a film, and maybe we'll do that sometime. John Ribera, we'll talk maybe about that about doing like a movie time. We sit down and I'll like watch a movie with you guys, and
That sounds great.
that'd be a lot of fun, just kind of like analyzing the film and at least how I go about it, because I want to show you like like I would stop almost every 30 seconds probably and start pulling things out from it and then just start capitalizing on it. And that's really what you have to do. When you start to do this professionally, you have to go really quite far down under the surface, as much as you can. So on the surface, as I said, I think having the idea of capturing some of these, like, these photos from insane people, I think it's good. But again, it's on the surface. So what can you do that's deeper than that? I think having the ideas of animals is really cool, and then also the virus represented. But again, what can you do, and how are you seeing this playing out? Are you seeing it like as an edit that kind of goes through in the beginning of the film? Or are you going to have it like, I like the idea of inserting, like kind of like in Fight Club, where he inserts like one frame in a sequence and inserts it again and it starts to come to fruition at the end. But what could you do that would be more, I guess, that would become more of a deeper thing? Because what I have here in front of me is like reference images with an effect on them. And although they are pertaining and connecting to the theme, how are they helping support the themes, I guess, the deeper ideas? The more you can go into that realm, the deeper you can go into that realm, and pull out the better stuff, I think the better your concept's going to be, and then the better your final outcome's going to be. So, yeah, I'm always hard on you with the notes too, so hopefully that, because I want you to do the best work you can, and I know that's why you're here, to be the best that you can. So, but yeah, I think that's my only thoughts. I would say, if at this point for you, if you've already gone this far, if you want to, I mean, you've gone this far already on our first class, so maybe if you want to, I would say sit down, rewatch the film if you can get some time, and start to really open your mind's eye to what the filmmaker is trying to tell you. And then just sit there with a notepad or your computer or whatever you need to do to document all the ideas and the things that are happening. Because again, I mean, from my perspective, this film has like crazy levels of depth, crazy levels of things that can really let you go and spur your mind off into different tangents and ideas. And then from that experience, start to kind of sketch out ideas, and then go into all this whole process, and then you can kind of see where you're going to end up here. So because that would be my best advice for this, because it might yield you an interesting realm. Right now, I think you're very much, you're there, but you're on the surface. You're still on the surface. You need to go deeper into the process. So.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
No, I don't want to hear. I want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
That's what helps.
Good. It is what helps. And I think if you do it, you're going to find that you're going to have a good result at the end of it. And the cool thing about working in this group is you can lean on your teammates to help you out, to help you. And everybody here, like, don't be afraid to speak your mind. If you have a good idea, like, let it ring. Like, if you say like, oh, you should do this because I saw this thing, try this one, like, you don't have to necessarily try to control somebody or their thing, but you can at least try to give them some, ideas. And then someone might tell John something interesting, and then he'll go off into a tangent, and that'll spawn into some weird concept. And this could be potentially like the best piece of work he's ever created. You're always like one idea away from brilliance. That's always something I feel that's the irony of it. It's like we're always right here, and our ideas are all over the place, right? But there's a brilliant one right in front of us. It's just a matter of obtaining that, knowing where it is and taking that. And brilliant ideas, I think, come from combining things. Like if you have the ability to combine your ideas and pull from stuff from other ways in different spots and connect them, you have the ability to make really interesting work. Then you can combine them and then repurpose them and then send them out to the world, and then boom, then you're a superstar, and then you make that big Puff Daddy money. So because remember, guys, we're all here for that Puff Daddy money, right? So but yeah, that concludes that. That's my notes for you on that one. You guys, is that cool, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
That gives me definitely something to think about, and keep pushing.
Yes, it's a process. If you hit a wall, just do the Slack channel, reach out to me and all your teammates, and we'll just continue going through here. So, yeah, don't be afraid to lean on everybody. That's why we're doing it. It's a team effort. So this is how we would approach it if we were at a studio too. It's the same kind of thing. So yeah, we're gonna make it rain. Okay. So a big conclusion. John, John R, do you have any questions, or does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, there's 2 more questions.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I'll read it. All right, the first one says, this is a general process question, and I will probably get the answer on YouTube tomorrow due to my shitty connection. It says, in comparison to the basic approach you taught in your UI class, I figure in the main title class it is pretty similar. Is your general process for projects basically the same? Like mind mapping, collecting reference, sketch things out, etc.
Yeah, so great question. Thank you for asking. And absolutely. The irony of when I started to teach, I realized that my process is the same for most things. Sometimes it all depends on time. So let me quickly just draw out a diagram so this makes sense. J and I, C. So generally, that's like I was saying, the irony of teaching is I found out that I'm doing the same process for all my stuff. And sometimes I skip over a step. Like, let's say this is the mind map. I skip over it, or I'll skip over 2 steps. I won't even thumbnail. But that's because I've been doing this for such a long time, like I've been doing it for so many years that I've found my own process. But that's only because I know that right when I get here, it's going to be good, because I can already see it. And that just comes from like a weird internal meditation kind of thing where I get into this weird meditative state. But my process generally is all the same for all the projects, whether it be UI or main title design or poster design, or even writing. When I write scripts now, I use MindNode to write out all the beats. I'll write out like, this happens here. Oh, I'll maybe change that. I'm gonna move that over here. Like for like Lost Boy or any of the films and stuff that I'm working on. So when I write, it's all similar process. And the reason why I do it like this is because when I first started doing art, I would make something and I'd be really inspired. I'd be like, this is great. I'm so pumped up. I'm so excited, and I'd go watch like a film that I love. And then I'd go, okay, I'm gonna go create. And then my creation would look like shit. And I would be like very confused. And this would be like I'd be like this inside. I'd be all torn up because it wasn't, it didn't look like the thing that I liked. And the problem was, what I was doing is I was trying to go way too far without having the fundamentals of a process. And only through time and maturity did I find out that I need to have a process. And this works not for everybody, but for me, I think it's just how we're programmed as humans, to the way we work. And so like if I were to say relate it to Mozart or something, or let's say the Da Vinci is more relevant to art. Da Vinci had a process. He had a process in which he created things. And if you find and you do some research on him, he wasn't a success until he was like 40 years old. He was actually quite a failure in the eyes of people at that time. And it's funny, he's only revered as a master to us at this day, and we only see his mastery here, when in fact he had to start here, and he was finding all this, like he was finding a lot of confusion and frustration, same as I did, same as probably everybody else here. The process in which you create work is really going to be what helps you continue and stay ahead of the curve, and also allow you to be in your own realm. And your own process is kind of how finding your own process is more or less your own journey. My process is to eliminate creative block at all chances, because creative block, it just sucks. I hate it. And I haven't had creative block in like 6 years or something, or I don't know. It's been a long time. And so I found the thing that I didn't like, and I tried to eliminate it by creating a process to do so. So I hope that makes sense. My process personally is just kind of something that I found. And it's like I was introduced to MindNode from my friend Sam, who showed it to me a while ago. And as I said, I don't always do it. I did it in my classes just to show you guys, because not everybody would understand how to extract ideas, but you don't necessarily have to always use it. And sometimes I don't always do the thumbnails. Sometimes I do, but not always. Sometimes I just go straight to making a frame. But most of the time, I will be completely honest, almost always, like 99% of the time, it'll come from thinking, like reinterpreting, and then I'll go into my sketchbook and I'll draw the thumbnails. I'll draw little thumbnails, and I'll kind of break down the general idea very small, like, okay, this or here, and it'll just be scribbles. To the unknown eye, it'll just be some kind of like, little scribbles. So but yeah, hopefully that makes sense. John R., you got another question? And then I'm going to kick off.
Yeah, just one more question. It says, you were talking about the thumbnails earlier, and you said it wasn't standing out as far as iconic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, do you mean something in terms of iconic? Anyone would recognize it instantly? Like a wide shot or rhino is iconic compared to, say, a close-up of its eye. I guess I might be overthinking too much, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I would highly recommend, whoever asked that question, I would highly recommend learning from a person that's much more defined than I am. His name's Scott McLeod. Let me find a link to share with you. I'll send a link to John, and then John will share it with you guys. But it's I believe it's called Understanding Comics. Yeah, hold on. Let me grab it from my shelf. One second, guys. Okay, yeah, it's called Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art. Let me go to my Amazon and let's grab it so you guys can see what it is. Understanding Comics. Here it is. It's an awesome book, super good resource, and he defines what iconic is through the art of comic book storytelling. And the only reason, again, I think one thing it's really important here for you guys all to learn, and myself as well, is when it comes to iconic design, who would have thought that I would find it here? I'm inspired by comics, and this has been a book that's been referred to me so many times. So I went through, and it's really dense. It's really amazing. Scott did an outstanding job, but I've gotten through like maybe half of it, and I've kind of taken away and gone and done my own thing. But when I'm trying to define iconic work, and you're not overthinking it, it's totally fine. I think the problem is I maybe not defining it so well. But in the book, he explains how, like, if you were to draw something, when it say like a creator would go and draw something. Let's see, if they drew something, let me make a new file here. Notes. So if somebody went to draw a face, and they added all the details, the nose, the mustache, like a goatee or something. If you don't have a goatee, you're not going to relate to that. You might, but you're not going to relate to it as well as maybe you need to. And that's why cartoons resonate so well with us as a species, because what it does is it kind of, it distills the character down to main shapes and sizes and all that stuff. And he has a chart in his book, which is really great. Actually, it was 2 dots. Grab my eraser. Oh, Photoshop, you're so awesome. It's not back to brush. So yeah, like 2 dots and then a line. So let's say 50% of the world is male, or maybe a little bit. I'm not sure about those numbers. Even less have, maybe like 10% have facial hair, and then maybe 3% are bald. So you're kind of cutting down on what you're doing. Is you're very specific, and iconic work, from my perspective, is something that's very distilled down to the main ingredients. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about creating iconic work, is you're taking something very complex and you're breaking it down to one thing. you're taking your ingredients, basically, if you were to relate it to food, and you're breaking it down into the basic core ingredients in which you're making the work. And that kind of is something to think about as you're going through. I hope that makes sense. Again, as I said, if you're really interested in knowing more about that and learning from there, I would say pick up that book from Scott, because it's awesome. It's an outstanding book, and it's really something to help you understand kind of the art of comics, but at the same time, the art of storytelling visually. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. To all of my students, thank you guys so much. You guys rock. Keep continuing your process, continue your journey. Try to find your own process. You know, like if you resonate with me and you create like I do, then do that. If not, then don't do that. Find your own way. I will say that, like, I do know that my process works. It's proven, and I've seen it work for other people too. So that's the only reason why I'm teaching it. If it doesn't work for you, then I would say don't do it then. You know, like if you're able to create great work without having to do that, I would say don't worry about it. But if you don't, and if it's tough for you, then I would say why struggle? Like, why don't you follow my process and see if it works for you? So it's a bit of both of those things. You know, your mind's gonna fight you a lot. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's it. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Again, have fun creating. Everybody unmute your mics and say goodbye and blow kisses and hugs and digital high fives, and then I'll head out. I'm gonna go back to work. Ready? Bam.
Smack.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, have a great day, guys. We'll see you next week, okay?
Sure. See you.
See ya.
Yeah.
See you guys.